All right, we're just going to go with it and get this information out to you. Anybody that's watching live, they need this to happen, so we're going to do it. We'll see if we keep it or not. So this workshop is for those of you that are parenting challenging kids. There are 3 things that your child really needs you to do, and this comes from a parent-led system that turns chaos into confidence. I help you as the parent to know what to do in your home. I work with parents who have kids that have tantrums, hitting, spitting, kicking, extreme refusals, all the way to kids that are maybe just a little bit defiant, a little bit not doing what you want them to do, and kind of turning your home into more chaos than you want. I was adopted from foster care when I was 6 years old. And I grew up with a brother that had really extreme behaviors, full on reactive attachment disorder, I am sure. But at that time, nobody really knew. And I think that from that experience of watching my brother struggle and end up ultimately living in a different home, that I really wanted to help those tough, oppositional, distressed kids. I am a parent to 6 children, and I will tell you that I have used these tools in my own home. And my passion is for you to have practical, brain-based tools that you can use today. Listen, there's a lot of advice out there for parents. You can find all different kinds of things about parenting on YouTube, on Instagram, everywhere you look, there's books, everything. And gentle parenting is one of the big topics, whether to use it or not use it, and what is happening to our kids is a lot of times blamed on gentle parenting. And parents are facing that gentle parenting or just typical parenting advice isn't working for kids that have trauma or really high levels of anxiety or even neurodivergence, that there's a different way to do it. It doesn't mean that it isn't gentle, and it doesn't mean that it's harsh, or it doesn't mean that it has to be one way or the other, but you're going to get kind of inconsistent advice. And you may be facing that people are telling you that that's what all kids do, or that's how it is for everybody, but you're not imagining it. Your child is actually harder to parent than other kids. And these behaviors that you're facing are unpredictable, they're often unsafe, and they're out of control. And I have worked with many parents that they themselves now have PTSD from everything they've gone through in their families, or they're struggling with their own anxiety and depression. And a lot of it is just, it's not feeling supported, it's having nobody that understands, nobody that's willing to kind of roll up their sleeves and get in there with you on it. It is a huge emotional toll on parents. Often you might feel blamed by teachers, other relatives, professionals, the people telling you, oh, they don't act like that in my office, or we don't have that problem with them at school or at my house. And if you don't understand the brain of what's going on inside of your child, you're going to feel like they're just manipulating you, that they're just defiant, they have demand avoidance, all of these diagnosis, oppositional defiance, all those things kind of come out of what you're experiencing with your child. And even understanding the brain is not enough. I really believe that you as the parent need the tools to know what to do about it, not just know why it's happening or how their brain is working, but what you can do to help them. Their brain is stuck a lot of times in survival mode. And that doesn't mean, even if you can't see the trauma that they've had, or you don't feel like they've had any trauma, or maybe they haven't, they don't feel safe, even if your home is safe. This is a felt safety. This is something in their brain that is constantly telling them that they're not safe unless they're in control of everything around them, all the people, everything. They can't regulate their emotions. So very small frustrations just blow up and become very explosive. They misinterpret communication, and they tend to see danger everywhere. And that's not because it is. And so when people tell you like, oh, the reason why they act this way at home and not somewhere else is because they feel safe at home. And and I don't believe that's all that's happening. I believe that when kids feel safe, when they can trust, they can allow, we're all like this, we can allow someone else to guide us. And there has to be something built there. And it's not for a lack of effort on the parent side. You may have never done anything to not earn their trust, but their brain is just wired differently to be kind of on high alert. And this impacts all their relationships with, it happens with parents, it happens with siblings, but it can also happen with teachers and with peers. There's just an agitation that's different. And so even if they're not having the same problems in school that you're having at home, it doesn't mean that everything's fine there and not fine here. It impacts everything. And the important relationships for their future are really built at home. Kids grow up believing sometimes that they're a bad kid or that they're broken. But what I really think is dangerous is when they grow up thinking that they cannot control their behavior. And some professionals send the message that we cannot expect these kids to improve, and they don't see that these are skills that need to be developed, and they work on it more on an emotional level and sometimes on a behavior level. But what I want to really talk to you is brain-based, right? Kids need safety. They need to know how to regulate, and they need to be taught how to connect. And for most of us, like, that connection happens naturally, and we expect it to happen naturally with our kids. But some kids are just wired differently, and so their connection is a little bit off, and there's some things that we have to teach in it. So without those key supports, the path forward is just very concerning. But what if you knew as a parent that it's never too late to turn things around? What if you really believe that home is absolutely the best place to teach these needed skills? And instead of normalizing mental illness, we could work on healthy and sound foundations. And when I say normalizing mental illness, I'm not talking about the message that we're sending out that like you're not broken. I'm okay with that. It's just we're normalizing it that people, if kids have anxiety, they're just going to always have anxiety, or they're going to always be depressed, and people are wearing it as if there's nothing, it's totally uncontrollable or totally out of their hands, and this is just who they are. When we can work on healthy and safe, sound foundations, and also help a person to feel that way, that they can be safe and healthy and sound and still be wired differently. So I want to tell you a little bit about this, but I changed the way I parented. When my kids were pretty young, I started working with kids that had been neglected, abused, and abandoned. And the behaviors that we saw from those kids was stuff that I think people are seeing more now than they ever have, because of this kind of normalizing that this is just how it is, and that almost all kids have mental illness. But I was just amazed when I started working with these kids and started realizing some things that really worked. And I started implementing those things in my own home. As a parent, there was no resources for me to see behavior differently at home and see it as communication. So I learned it from kind of the outside of the home, and I brought it into how I was parenting. And I started developing how to help other parents that had kids that had trauma. My kids that I first started doing this with had not experienced that, but then I adopted my son from foster care and really got to use these tools in a different way. And I really believe that it can get better. It can always get better. And I want you to experience that. Doesn't matter how old your kid is, there's always things that we can learn that will help improve our relationships and help us to connect, help us to regulate ourselves and and co-regulate with others. So first I want you to imagine, though, what if the behaviors, think of the behaviors that you're struggling with the most at home right now, And just think, what if those behaviors improved by 80%? What if meltdowns, refusals, talking back, what if all of that dropped by 80%? What if you yourself felt 80% more calm and confident as a leader? So just imagine what that would feel like. And if that's possible, I work with a lot of parents that are like, listen, like, even if it was just better half of the time, what if it was just better 50%? But the programs that I offer, the coaching that I do with you, we see at least 80% of things getting better. And that's over 10 years of doing this, working with parents, working in families with kids that have pretty extreme behaviors. So here's 3 keys. Safety is built through these 3 keys. One is structure, co-regulation, and communication. And these are the core to the 12-week Healthy Foundations family program. That is a program that's been used throughout Idaho, where I live, and also is spreading out across the nation. You get this opportunity to learn how to do this from the founder, and having me as a coach to work with you on developing these. But I want to go through this. Structure is critical for developing executive functioning. When your kids are having lags from what they understand and being able to apply that, like they have all the right answers, but then they can't apply it in their day-to-day life, or when another wild idea comes across their brain, you need to provide a lot of structure to help them to develop the executive functioning skills that they can develop. These are skills can be developed. Most parents struggle because routines often feel like battles. So parents will tell me like, oh, it's not going to work to have a schedule, or we tried that, we've tried all these things, and it doesn't really work. But I'm going to tell you that it does work. And you can start today. You can start with simple 3 or 4 daily like tasks, things that have to happen every day that you can develop into routines. I recommend that you use visual reminders of those. So you can have like a bedtime routine that's written. Even if your kids are not big readers or don't know how to read yet, when you have something put up on the wall and it's written, it automatically allows you to be in charge. Because the one that is setting up the schedule and the structure is the leader. And so use those visual reminders of what you're doing. If you have a task that you want your children to do, break it into 3 steps and put those 3 steps somewhere where they can see them. It doesn't mean they're going to do it on their own, but you have it written there. It's visual, it's clear, and it kind of comes from a place of confidence rather than like you're just making it up in the moment. And even though you may have had the same bedtime routine for the last 10 years, and it's only in the last year or 18 months that they are just totally, breaking out about it and not doing it or refusing, go ahead and make it visual and break it down to 3, if you can, 3 easy steps. Written schedules reduce anxiety. And when anxiety is lower in kids, we see positive behavior go up. So when you're seeing a lot of negative behavior, usually there's also a lot of anxiety. I would say that 99% of the kids that I work with not only have a significant diagnosis of ADHD or autism or oppositional defiance, mood disorders, they also have high levels of anxiety. So this is one way that you can lower the anxiety. Structure communicates leadership without yelling. And I'm going to tell you that you might need some help with building the structure, because a lot of parents have some problems with structure themselves. And also, if you are a really structured person and you're still having struggles with developing structure in your home, where you feel like, no, we are really structured, we have things going on all the time, but you have high levels of anxiety in your house, I can help you to implement structure that lowers the anxiety. Calming down is super important, right? But yelling at somebody to calm down never works, especially if you're not calm. Just think about the last time you were upset about something and somebody had the nerve to tell you to just calm down. So I want to teach you how to do calm and co-regulation. And regulation is something that you have to teach and is something that you model. So here's some easy things that you can do to help with that. You're going to stay close instead of sending them away. A lot of times we send our kids away when they're dysregulated. We don't even maybe call it dysregulated, but maybe they're being defiant or they're angry, they're upset. And so we tell them, you go to your room and calm down. Don't come out until you're ready. Don't come out till you're calm. And we send them away to do that. And here's what happens. They go to their room. If they're very aggressive, out of control kids, they will do something in their room that will likely bring you there. They're going to break things. They might destroy something. They will be pounding, screaming, yelling. That's one group of kids. Other kids, they may go to their room and you think it works because they go to their room and they get calm. They're not really regulating. They're actually just distracting. There's tons of stuff in their room. A lot of kids have video games in their rooms or electronics, but even if they don't, even if they just have toys, books, whatever, they're not actually getting their brain calm. They're just diverting from what they were. They may be mad for a little bit, then they do something else for a while, and now they come back down and they're calm, but they may still be quite high in their escalation, and so they're easily triggered again. And so they're still irritable and they're still like not really managing it. So instead of sending them away, you're going to move in closer, not in a threatening way, but just in the, hey, I'm here for you. And even if going to their room to calm down is a good idea for them so that they don't destroy something else in the house, you may give them a second, hit your pause button, and then go up and maybe you're just by the door. Maybe you're just sitting there and you're like, hey, I just want to help you to get calm, and then really work on getting yourself calm. No matter how high escalated they are, it's going to take about 20 minutes for their brain to calm down. So during that 20 minutes, you are trying to be the lowest heart rate in the room. You are being calm too. When they're really escalated and you are going to make a decision that they need to get calm, you're going to have to come in. You can't come in at this really low rate. Like if somebody's really escalated, you kind of need to match them, not in being like rude or mean or anything like that, but you're going to come in and be very clear and concise and direct. We're going to go to your room and we're going to take a few minutes. So think about hitting your pause button, think about being the lowest heart rate in the room, and realizing that it's going to take about 20 minutes. And during that 20 minutes, they may be yelling, they may be, stomping around. They may, it sometimes can be helpful to go for a walk and let them kind of work it out, right? But stay as close as you can that is safe. Your brain is what helps to regulate theirs. So you have to really work on knowing how to get yourself calm and how to stay calm while they're yelling stuff, while they're getting themselves calm. They're not the nicest, funnest people to be around, but your job is to get low and slow so that their brain can copy. Their mirror neurons need to copy yours. If aggression is happening, you start to move in close and now you're getting attacked. You're too close. And I don't want you to start being threatening, but you're going to need to get help because I want you to stay safe. It doesn't do your child any favors to hurt you or other people in the household. That it will actually, I think it's a destroyer of the child when they act like that. And it's not that they're getting away with it. It's that it's not helping them to be able to be a safe person. So if you have this happening in your home, you're not alone, but you need to get some help. You really need somebody like me that understands that kind of behavior and can help you to work through it. Clear and concise communication. This is a huge part of safety, and this is another thing that we can always be working on as parents. First of all, you talk way too much. And the reason is even in trying to be calm and explaining and, going over and over it, you're talking too much, you're saying too many words, and if you think about their brains kind of being like static electricity or static from a radio, um, your words need to kind of cut through that static. And a lot of times we don't even know what we're asking of our kids because sometimes we want them to feel a certain way and respond a certain way to what we're saying, even if we said it so perfectly and beautiful and then they got nothing from it, then we're upset, right? But our words, we need to tell them what we want them to do and not what we're trying to get them to stop doing. Like, you need to stop being mean to your brother. Instead, we're going to say, use kind words. Try that again. So you're going to be very calm and short, confident directions, not asking, did you want to apologize? Do you want to go to your room and calm down? Would you like to go outside and clean up the dog poop? No, none of that. It's like, this is what we're doing right now. And that comes from a place of calm and confidence for you as a parent. The more words you use are like fuel to the fire, right? It's like adding wood or gasoline on a fire, and it gives them more words to use against you in these power struggles. The game changer in all of this is to teach your kids to give good responses. If you really want to see things change because this changes their brain, then they need to learn to respond with yes, mom, yes, dad. It's amazing what happens. I used to teach Taekwondo, and in the beginning class, there would be all these kids that were white belts, and every time you gave directions, they had a reason why they weren't doing it or not listening. But as soon as we started teaching them to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, as a good response, it was amazing how it changed. You think about the military, how that's the first thing that people basically learn when they get off the get on to boot camp is to give yes, sir, yes, ma'am response. We're not militant about it in the way that I teach it, but it is still very much required, and it really does change their brain. And it rewires your brain too, because if you're setting your kids up to give a good response, it makes you really think about how clearly you're directing them. So very, very important. You can try this at home. I want you to choose one small action step today that you're going to take of the 3 things that we talked about. You get to decide what success looks like in your family. And you can start turning that chaos into confidence. And the confidence is for you as the parent to feel confident. The chaos is there, but how you address it will show up and in your confidence of knowing that you've got this, and it actually starts to lower the chaos too. So choose one small step today that you want to do. You also are going to get a free guide. So if you click on this QR code, you can get this free parenting guide. It goes over those 3 things, and that might make it easier for you to choose what action steps you want to do. You could choose one action step from each of the 3 main points, or you can choose one action step to just like, I'm going to start trying to get yes, mom, yes, dad, a thing at our house, and just see what happens. I have a website you can look at if you want to work with me. There's lots of different ways. There's a book that you can get on YouTube, on Amazon, Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids. I have this YouTube channel that hopefully you're watching this from, and Instagram at Parenting Challenging Kids. A lot of fun videos there. This is the guide that you can get. Here's your another chance to get the QR code. If you were not able to get it from this code, you can put in the notes that you would like the guide, and I will get that to you.